Listen, sometimes silence is not neglect, it's connection in a deeper form. Sometimes distance isn't rejection, it's reflection. When a man starts to pull back, when his words become fewer and his replies slower, the first instinct is to think he's losing interest. But maybe, just maybe, he's not ignoring you. Maybe he's falling deeper in love. Silence can be love in disguise. You see, we live in a world that equates noise with passion. We think love has to be loud, constant calls, endless messages, big gestures, and dramatic words. But the truth is, real love doesn't always need to announce itself. It doesn't need to prove its existence through constant motion. Sometimes love lives in the quiet. It's in the pauses, the stillness, the moments when two people don't need to say anything to understand each other. When someone goes quiet, especially in love, it's easy to panic. The mind starts running, the heart starts doubting. Why isn't he calling? Why didn't he reply? Did something change? But what if that silence isn't the absence of love? What if it's the presence of something deeper? What if instead of pulling away, he's falling further in? You see, silence can mean he's thinking, not about other people, not about distractions, but about you, about how to show up better, how to build something stronger, how to love in a way that lasts. Sometimes, when feelings grow beyond what words can hold, the voice falls quiet, because there's a sacred kind of silence that comes when the heart is learning a new rhythm. A man may not always know how to explain what he feels, he just feels it. And the deeper that feeling goes, the quieter he becomes. People confuse quiet with coldness, but silence is not always distance, it's sometimes depth. Think about it, the ocean is silent at its deepest point. The more powerful the current, the less noise it makes. Love works the same way. When it reaches a depth that shakes a person's soul, it stops being about constant expression and becomes about presence. It's not about saying, "I love you" every moment. It's about showing up in ways that words can't describe. In the beginning, love is loud. It's butterflies, excitement, long talks, and endless energy. But when love starts to mature, it slows down. It starts to listen. It starts to think. That's the silence most people don't recognize, the silence of maturity, because the louder kind of love is easy. The deeper kind takes patience, understanding, and emotional courage. It's not about chasing the high, it's about grounding the bond. Silence can be a sign that someone is no longer trying to impress, they're trying to connect. When you mean something real to someone, they start to measure their words. They think before they speak. They don't want to say the wrong thing. They don't want to hurt you. They don't want to lose you. So they pause. They reflect. And in that reflection, the love grows stronger, even if you can't see it yet. Love has seasons. There's the spring full of new energy, new life, constant growth. There's the summer warm, alive, passionate. But there's also autumn and winter seasons of stillness, of quiet reflection, where roots grow deeper underground even when the surface seems still. Silence is like that winter season in love. It looks empty from the outside, but beneath the surface, something powerful is happening. That's when trust is built, when emotions are processed, when a person decides if this is the kind of love worth giving their heart to fully. Sometimes silence is protection, because when someone starts to care deeply, they also start to fear deeply, fear of losing, fear of not being enough, fear of not being understood. So they go quiet, not because they're ignoring you, but because they're fighting with their own emotions. They're trying to make sense of what they feel. Love can be overwhelming, and silence becomes their way to breathe, to regain balance, to make sure that when they do speak, it's from the heart and not from confusion. Silence can also be a form of respect. It's the space between two hearts that says, "I value this enough not to rush it." When someone truly loves, they don't want to treat that connection casually, they want to get it right. So they take their time, they don't respond out of impulse, they don't act out of insecurity, they let their love breathe, they let their feelings settle until they can express them clearly, honestly, and fully. That kind of silence is not avoidance, it's love that's learning patience. Think about music, the most powerful moments are not always the notes. Sometimes it's the pauses between them. The silence gives the sound its meaning. The same is true in love. The silence gives the relationship its balance. It creates space for reflection, for gratitude, for depth. Without those quiet moments, love would burn out too fast. It would be all sound and no soul. So when you feel that silence, instead of filling it with fear, fill it with faith. Trust that love doesn't always need to be visible to be real. Sometimes the most powerful connections are the ones you can't see or hear, only feel. A person who's falling deeply in love might need that silence to process what's happening in their heart, because love, real love, changes people. It shifts their focus, it shakes their comfort zones, it forces them to confront parts of themselves they never had to face before. And that takes stillness. Silence can be the moment between who they were and who they're becoming, the version of themselves that can love you better, protect you better, understand you better. It's not the absence of feeling, it's the preparation for something greater. So yes, silence can be love in disguise. It can be the quiet moment before a deeper commitment, the calm before the expression, the reflection before the confession. It's not always a bad sign sometimes, it's the truest sign of all. Because when words fall short, silence steps in, and that's when you realize love doesn't always need to be heard to be felt. Sometimes the quietest love is the loudest of all. Reflection is not rejection. That's something most people never stop to think about. We live in a time where everyone wants immediate reassurance, instant messages, constant attention, continuous proof that they matter. When that flow slows down, fear sets in. The heart starts whispering lies. He's losing interest. He doesn't care anymore. Something's wrong. But what if the truth is the complete opposite? What if that moment of silence, that step back, that pause, isn't a withdrawal at all, but a process? What if he's not pulling away from you, but preparing to move closer with purpose, with strength, with understanding? When feelings get real, they shake a person to their core. And for someone who's not used to being vulnerable, that feeling can be overwhelming. When love starts to deepen, the mind kicks in with questions. Can I handle this? Am I ready for this? Is this the one I'm meant to give my whole heart to? That reflection isn't rejection, it's recognition. It's the soul recognizing something rare, something that deserves honesty and care, because love isn't just about wanting someone, it's about being ready to carry the weight of that connection. And readiness requires reflection. When someone reflects, they're not ignoring you, they're studying what they feel. They're trying to make sure they don't hurt you. They're measuring their words, checking their intentions, and asking themselves if they can truly give you what you deserve. That's not rejection, that's maturity, that's love in its thinking stage. You see, reflection means there's awareness. It means something inside them is shifting. It means you've reached a part of their heart that most people never touch. And now they're trying to figure out what that means for their life. They're not pushing you away, they're processing you. They're thinking about how to make this work, how to grow with you, how to love you right. Love, when it's real, doesn't move fast, it moves meaningfully. When someone takes a step back, they might be building emotional strength. They might be healing old scars that suddenly ache again because of how deeply you've touched them. Love wakes up old fears, fears of loss, betrayal, disappointment, and when those fears come alive, reflection becomes necessary. They have to sit with themselves and ask, can I let this person in completely? Can I trust this feeling? Can I give my heart again without breaking it? So when someone reflects, it's not because they don't care, it's because they care too much to rush. They understand that love is not just emotion, it's decision. And decisions that matter take time. Think about it. When something precious lands in your hands, you don't move recklessly. You hold it carefully. You study it. You make sure you don't drop it. That's exactly what happens when someone starts to feel something deep. They get careful. Reflection is the mind's way of protecting love from being careless. It's like a craftsman stepping back to look at his work not because he's finished, but because he wants to make it perfect. When someone reflects, they're looking at what's growing between you and asking themselves, how do I build this right? How do I not mess this up? That's love thinking before speaking, love pausing before promising, love choosing to be intentional. You see, rejection ends things, reflection refines them, rejection closes the door, reflection builds the doorway. When someone takes time to think, They're not running away, they're preparing to come back with more clarity, more confidence, and more honesty. That's not a sign of weakness, that's strength. It takes courage to stop and evaluate your feelings instead of pretending to have it all figured out. In the quiet of reflection, people face their truth. They realize what scares them, what excites them, what they're willing to fight for. And if love survives that stage, it becomes unshakable. Because love that's been reflected upon becomes love that's understood. And love that's understood doesn't fade, it endures. Reflection also shows respect. It means a person values you enough to think before acting. They don't want to offer you empty words or shallow commitment. They want to be sure that when they step forward, it's with both feet, not halfway, not uncertain, but completely present. That's the kind of love that doesn't need to chase validation because it's built on truth. Sometimes reflection looks like distance, but distance is not the same as disconnection. Imagine a painter stepping back from the canvas. He's not done painting, he's just making sure every stroke fits, every color blends, every detail aligns. That's what reflection is in love. It's not abandonment, it's alignment. It's making sure the picture of us is one worth keeping forever. The hardest thing about love is patience, waiting while someone figures out what their heart already knows. But if you rush that process, you rob love of its depth. You force words that aren't ready, promises that aren't mature, emotions that haven't settled. Reflection gives love time to breathe, to become something whole, something real. And yes, sometimes reflection leads to silence, but silence doesn't always mean distance. It can mean devotion in progress. It can mean someone is sitting quietly, trying to understand how much you mean to them, trying to make sense of emotions they never felt this strongly before. That's not rejection, that's revelation. That's love transforming confusion into clarity. The truth is, love that never reflects will never last, because reflection gives love perspective. It helps you see what matters, what's worth fighting for, and how to protect what's real. When someone pauses to think, to reflect, to understand their feelings before expressing them, they're doing the work that keeps love alive. So don't fear that pause. Don't panic when things go quiet. Let reflection do its work, because while it might feel like distance, it's often the bridge that brings two hearts closer than before. Reflection is not the end, it's the awakening. It's the heart taking a deep breath before it speaks the truth. It's love in its purest, most thoughtful form, not impulsive, not careless, but genuine, grounded, and strong. That's why reflection should never be mistaken for rejection. One pushes you away, the other prepares to pull you closer. One is fear, the other is faith, and when love chooses to reflect, it's saying, I'm not walking away from you, I'm walking toward understanding you. Love grows in stillness, not in noise, not in chaos, not in the constant rush of words and gestures, but in the quiet moments where two souls learn to breathe together. In the beginning, love often feels like a storm. It's passionate, exciting, unpredictable. Everything feels new, every word feels magical, every touch electric. But when the storm settles, love begins to reveal its true nature. That's when stillness enters that calm, unspoken space where love learns to stand on its own without needing to be loud. Stillness is where love matures. It's where the feelings that once shouted softly start to hum with consistency. In stillness, you don't need constant validation because presence becomes enough. You don't need to hear I love you every second because you feel it in the way they listen, in the way they look at you, in the way they choose to stay even when the excitement fades. The world teaches us to chase motion, to believe that if things aren't moving fast, they're not real. But love doesn't obey that rule. Love doesn't grow in noise, it grows in depth. In stillness, love becomes real, because stillness is the space where you see each other clearly without filters, without performance. You start to notice the quiet details, the way they breathe when they're calm, the way they think before speaking, the way they carry your presence even when you're not around. Those small things don't make noise, but they hold meaning. That's the beauty of stillness. It reveals what's genuine. Many people mistake stillness for boredom or distance. They think if love isn't loud, it's dying, but the truth is, stillness is where love catches its breath. It's where it recharges, reflects, and roots itself deeper. You can't keep running on adrenaline forever. Even the strongest fires need moments of calm to keep burning. The quiet moments, the ones where nothing dramatic is happening, are where connection strengthens. It's when two people learn that love isn't about constant motion, but mutual peace. Stillness also teaches patience. It reminds you that not every silence needs to be filled, not every pause needs to be feared. Sometimes the quiet between two hearts is where understanding grows, because when you stop talking for a moment, you start listening not just to words, but to energy, to emotion, to intention. You begin to feel what the other person isn't saying, and that's when real empathy begins. There's a deep beauty in being comfortable in someone's stillness. To sit together without saying a word, and still feel connected, that's love on another level. That's when you know the bond has grown past surface emotions. It's become spiritual, it's become soul deep, because love that needs constant stimulation will eventually fade, but love that can sit in silence and still feel alive, that's eternal. Stillness also brings clarity. In the noise of life, emotions get tangled. We react instead of respond. We assume instead of understand. But when love slows down, when two people allow silence to exist without fear, truth begins to speak. In that quiet, you learn what you really feel, what you really need, what really matters. You start to understand that love isn't about ownership or control, it's about balance, about two hearts choosing to move together, not to outshine each other. In stillness, you start to see love as something sacred, because when the world is loud, stillness becomes protection. It's the safe space where two hearts can exist without pressure, without performance. You learn to find comfort in the pauses, peace in the waiting, and meaning in the quiet. Love becomes less about doing and more about being. You don't have to prove anything, you just exist together, fully, peacefully, truly. That's why love that grows in stillness lasts longer, because it's not built on emotional highs, it's built on consistency. It's built on trust that doesn't need to shout. It's built on small, quiet acts that speak louder than words. Maybe it's the way he checks on you even when he's busy. Maybe it's the way he remembers what matters to you. Maybe it's the way he really listens without interrupting. That's love in stillness. It's not showy, but it's steady. It's not noisy, but it's nurturing. Stillness also tests love's strength, because when the noise fades, when the excitement quiets, when the routine sets in, that's when you see if love is real. If it can survive silence, it can survive anything, because silence doesn't create distance unless there was never true closeness to begin with. In stillness, love is either exposed or expanded, and when it's real, it expands. Love growing in stillness is like a tree taking root. You don't see the roots forming, but they're what make the tree unshakable. The deeper they go, the stronger the tree stands through every storm. Stillness is where love takes root. The conversations slow down, but the understanding deepens. The butterflies fade, but the bond strengthens. The noise stops, but the connection becomes quieter and stronger than ever. That's why the quiet moments matter. They are not the absence of love, they are proof of comfort. When two people can exist in the same space without forcing conversation, without needing to impress, that's not indifference. That's trust, that's security, that's love that no longer needs to perform because it's found its rhythm. Stillness teaches you to love without fear. It teaches you that love isn't something to chase, it's something to cultivate. It's not a race to the loudest declaration, it's a journey into understanding, patience, and presence. The kind of love that grows in stillness doesn't crumble under pressure because it's not built on noise, it's built on peace. It's not dependent on attention, it's rooted in intention. When love reaches this stage, everything changes. Arguments soften, misunderstandings shrink, and connection deepens. Because when love learns stillness, it learns forgiveness. It learns compassion, it learns to listen more and react less. That's the love that lasts a lifetime, the love that's calm in the chaos, quiet in the storm, and steady in the silence. So when things get quiet, don't be afraid. Don't assume the love is fading. It might just be growing silently, powerfully, beautifully in the stillness, because that's where love learns to breathe, to balance, and to become something unbreakable. In that quiet, you don't lose each other, you find each other more deeply than words could ever express.